When I took the oath, I was 26. In essence, we take the oath to protect the people, the public, and property with our blood, sweat, and tears, and our lives if necessary. Some people don't think they really focus on that, really take to heart what that means. But for me, it was like taking up a cross, because it's not easy. It's not easy being an officer. There's times when you see stuff that and it stays with you. Without the grace of God, my faith, my family, it'd be hard sometimes to continue. My name is Robert Reichenberger, and I am a peacemaker. In the 4th grade, I saw this awesome movie, Star Wars, and I was drawn to one of the main characters who ended up being a Jedi. And the Jedi, they protected the public. They were protectors of the peace. As I grew older, I also realized, hey, there is an occupation that movie represents, and that's law enforcement. They are protectors of the peace, the protectors of the republic, the people. And my mother always wanted me to be a priest, and so I struggled with police, priest. And as I turned 16, I met my wife, and so I thought, I'm not going to be a priest. This just isn't going to happen, probably. I love this woman, and some say at 16 maybe don't know what love is, but I'm still with her 33 years later. The biggest part of our job is what the patrolmen do every day, and that is keeping peace, period. That is always our mission, no matter what call we go on. We're first protectors and peacemakers, and then warriors. We have a guardian mindset. We are guardians of the people and of people's property, and therefore we have to protect even sometimes the people that are wanting to do us harm. First, we have to bring peace with us. We can't come in charged up and excited and wound up. It's a whole breathing thing, getting calm, getting the guys calm, and then we can think clearly, and it'll have a positive outcome. I remember on one particular call with an emotionally disturbed person who was also under the influence of alcohol. This man normally when he's sober, I think, is a pretty easy along with individual and fairly stable, but when he becomes under the influence, usually at nighttime, he becomes very emotionally disturbed and very intoxicated, and he has a history of depression as well. On this particular call, he was calling dispatch. He'd called a couple times drunk, and then eventually he said, I'm sitting here at my table, I've got a knife to my throat, I'm going to kill myself. Officers were dispatched. I was dispatched along with them. They initially sent 3 officers and myself. There was a call taker relaying this on a dispatch. The guy eventually said, look, when the officers get here, I'm not going to kill myself, but I'm going to kill an officer, so they'll kill me. So going into that, you're thinking, okay, how are we going to deal with this guy? What can I say? What can I do to change this man's opinion? As I do on all the difficult calls or the very dangerous calls, I always ask the Holy Spirit to give me guidance, to guide my mind and to guide my actions. And I do breathing. I breathe, keep my breathing, so I can think and have a clear head. And when I get to the scene, the officers and we staged about a block away on opposite streets so that he couldn't see us coming in. And as I got there with the officers, first thing I say to them is, hey guys, nice and easy. This is gonna be no problem, everything's gonna be fine. We're gonna take this nice and slow. Nothing's gonna happen. And so I know that we have to bring peace with us. We have to have peace within ourselves in order to bring peace to this call. So I try to keep the guys calm and myself calm. I mean, it's stressful when you go into those calls because you know how they could end up. So on a call like this where they've made the intent that they want to hurt an officer, I got to the back of my vehicle and I removed what's called a less lethal weapon, which in this case I chose a beanbag shotgun. It's a 12-gauge shotgun that shoots a beanbag round. And I assigned an officer to back me up in case it failed. I wouldn't be stuck with the less lethal. So I had an officer backing me up. I had officers on the perimeter and I had the house around in case the guy went out the back door trying to hurt other citizens. When we got there, I didn't want to go up the door and knock so the guy would rush out. So I had dispatch call the man and say, hey, can you ask the man if he would put down the knife and come outside so that we can help him? And this man was a 6'3", 300-pound Native American. And my mother's bloodline is Native American, so I felt, hey, this might be my connection with this man. So I try to use that. I didn't call him sir. When I eventually got to talk to him, I called him brother. And I spoke, asked him what tribe he was with, and tried to make a connection with him. He was drunk and very belligerent, but I think maybe something made that connection with him. But he did eventually come outside, had the knife, big old long kitchen knife, probably about a 11, 12-inch blade, and had it to his throat, had it kind of like this, and eventually kind of held it off to the side, came out, pointing the knife at his neck, and I'm trying to talk with him. Dispatch has him on the phone, talking with him, and I'm on the radio with dispatch, and finally he puts the phone down and he starts listening to me, and eventually I'm able to connect with him, and he starts walking forward with the knife to his neck, starts advancing on me, and I had a light, so a light on my shotgun so that I could illuminate him, but he can't see what I've got. And I told him, sir, you need to drop the knife. I'm going to shoot you with the beanbag shotgun. It's not going to kill you, but it's sure going to hurt. Please let us help you. And the whole time it was, sir, let us help you. Let's talk about this so that we can all go home and so that we can get you some help so you feel better tonight. And as he starts walking down the stairs, I said, Lord, please help me. And as he walks down the stairs, no more than I said it, he throws the knife down, turns around, puts his hands behind his back, and then he just stands there. We move in, take him into custody, and he starts crying. And man, I couldn't help but feel the Lord's presence. I mean, this is a big man. I don't even know if 6'3", 300 pounds. I don't even know if the shotgun would have phased this drunk guy. So it could have turned deadly. It could have. Those things are potentially, has potential for death, and in that case, it ended well and ended in peace. He was crying, apologized, and we got him some mental health aid that he needed. So in 2009, to be exact, it was April of 2009, I was promoted to detective after 16 years as a patrolman on the streets. And in June, I was sighting a couple rifles in at my mother and father's property, and as I'm packing away and headed home, I felt something in my hair, and as I was feeling through, I pulled one tick off, pulled him off, he was stuck, and looked at it and flicked him out the window, didn't give it much thought. Within about a month, I started having some muscle spasms and small things. I'd get them at work and my chest would start moving on its own. The pain didn't really stop, it eased up, but from that moment on, man, it was relentless. At that point, it was starting to creep into my lower back, and so I was pretty uncomfortable. One of the neurologists treating me advised me that he felt that I had Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. The symptoms were very similar. At this point, this thing had progressed 6 months later. I was losing my motor skills. The body's systems were starting to shut down. The organs were being affected. By December, I was bedridden. Early in the process, I was angry. Angry that what if I, I was angry at God because I thought I had led a good life. Why am I being punished? Why is my family being punished? What have they done? And I was mad. I was mad at God. I was strong. I was a 180-pound guy. I lifted weights. I worked out. I ate good. I drank a little bit. Probably, I wish that wasn't part of my life back then, but I was drinking, and to be honest with you, maybe some of my faith had wavered. I'd seen a lot of bad stuff, and even though I carried the faith, maybe part of me maybe my inner faith had wavered a little bit. Christ is a great fisherman, sometimes has a way of casting out and reeling us back in. And I think that was his way. I was distressed. I initially went to Father Billinger and I told him what was happening, and he told me, you need to surrender to God, and you need to surrender to your family. Let them help you. You can't be the protector and take all this on yourself. Let them share your burden. Let Christ bear your burden with you. When I was angry, he said, it's okay. God's big enough. He can handle it. He was a man. He understands the same emotions that you're suffering. He's had those same emotions. When he was dying on the cross, and he said, Abba, Father, why have you forsaken me? He felt the same way. He was in agony. He was in pain. He felt alone. And so I really felt a closeness with Christ at that point, because that's exactly the way I felt. Where are you? And as my wife and I researched my symptoms, and eventually we found a physician, and I was diagnosed with Lyme disease. As he was telling me my symptoms, he would ask me questions. I remember crying. It's like someone finally gets it. I had been to all these doctors here locally, and no one could figure it out. I knew we had found the path when, at the end of our appointment, the physician advised me that he was Christian, and he asked me, Bob and Pam, would you like me to say a prayer over you? And I said, absolutely. He put his arms around us, and he said a prayer and asked the Holy Spirit to come upon me and to give me peace of mind, and also experience God's healing. And he asked Jesus to help him to be the vessel for that peace and healing. And I felt the peace come over both Pam and I. Both of us wept. And we knew, hey, we'd found the answer. Everything was so right. Treatment was worse than the disease itself. Doctor told me when I left, if you think it's bad now, it's going to get worse, but please stay with it. As you kill the bacteria, it releases toxins in the body, and it becomes incredibly painful. As the pain increased and peaked, there were times when it would become so tremendous that I would black out. As the pain progressed, it felt like someone had chained you to a floor and 10 men were ice picking every square inch of your body. It was sheer pain and torment. And at that point, I suffered, but I didn't feel like I had a meaning in my life anymore. And then I remember one night, and I remember laying on the floor. The sedation medication wasn't working, and the pain was extra bad that night. And I remember lying in front of a picture of Christ on the floor. And I remember looking up at Christ, and I remember, it's almost, I can hear his words, that he said, please do this for, and he gave me a name of a person. I heard the name as clear as you and I are speaking now. I didn't see his face moving or any movement, but I heard the words. It gave me a focus and a purpose for the pain, and I felt, hey, this is my occupation. If I live 40 more years through this, I'll accept this. As it progressed, I became very close and found full communion with Christ, and I found this perfect peace that I hadn't ever known before. I guess it's hard to explain, because I had the turmoil and the pain, but there was a reason and a purpose. I knew that I was doing God's will, that I was where God wanted me to be. And so slowly but surely, I ended up regaining my health. And within a year, God had given me my life back and had renewed my faith and had given me a peace that I'd never known before. Could I go back? I would never trade that year of torment and pain for what I've gained from it.
What an amazing story of Robert, a police officer, who once he came to terms with this beatitude to become a peacemaker, was able not only to see his personal life transform, but to be able to take the beatitude and put it into practice every single day at work.
Absolutely. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. And Father Capon said about this, the people who try to bring the peace of God to souls are also peacemakers. In fact, they are peacemakers of a higher order. These are the ones who dedicate their lives to teaching the truths of God and leading souls to God by good example. I think Father Capon not only preached that in word, but from the pulpit of a battlefield and later of a prisoner of war camp, that was his pulpit. He actually lived that. It's one thing to be a peacemaker, but to be a peacemaker that's leading others to a higher order. And ultimately, what is that higher order? The kingdom of heaven.
Being a peacemaker can be one of the most challenging things a person can ever do, Father John. This week, we're asking Capen's men to do probably the toughest challenge of this series. We're asking you to find those people in your life that you've fallen out with or that you have a rift with, and we're asking you to make peace. We're asking you to become peacemakers, people that's hearts are turned and oriented to God and are willing to live this beatitude in a way that we go to a world that's fragmented and broken and certainly not been described as peaceful, and actually be the solution. So I ask you to look back in your life, find people you've had a hard time with or people you've struggled with, or maybe you have a rift with, and go this week and make peace, either with a phone call, a visit, or perhaps even a letter. And we look forward to seeing you next week.